get data to support your branding decisions, and just know that you're not you aren't necessarily the product. If you're selling a product, it's the customers that are buying into it. You're not buying your product. They're the one forfeiting money.
Hey,
I didn't
man.
really answer your question though about the visual aesthetic of the brand, and I know you asked that, and I go back and forth, man. From my design heart says, yeah, I mean, the things that I would say are the same things you probably learn in art school, or the same things that everybody says. Be consistent. That's pretty obvious. Don't use too many fonts, right? Like, I mean, honestly, if you're not a designer, just hire a friggin' designer. Like it's the cost of doing business. Or the great quote, good artists copy, great artists steal. Find a theme of a brand that you like, and survey it against a couple of your power customers or your evangelists, the people who you can trust and have an open dialogue with and get feedback loops from, and say, hey, we're thinking about rebranding to this, or we're thinking about packaging like this. Like, utilize your customers to help you identify that product fit, right? The visual component to the product component. There's no point in guessing. We have the internet. We have survey ability, right? Like, survey the people, get data to support your branding decisions, and just know that you're not you aren't necessarily the product. If you're selling a product, it's the customers that are buying into it. You're not buying your product. They're the one forfeiting money to you because they want what you have, right? So at the end of the day, they're the most important person, and unfortunately, they're not designing it, right?
Of course,
You're
again,
muted. Oh, there you go.
yeah, of course. So I want to again unpack this. I probably again might have not got the notes 100% accurate, but then you can clarify. But let me just share my screen here. Okay, hopefully this time it works. Okay, wait, stop sharing.
Oh, that worked for a second.
Okay, let me go in. There, do you see my screen?
Yep. Be consistent. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And that's on a visual perspective, like, just be consistent. Invest in an expert if you can. I mean, there are a lot of great designers out there. Let people do what they do best. You don't have to have superhero syndrome. You can't be the CEO, the CMO, the designer, the web designer, I mean, it's just really not the best way to run business. I mean, it's the 80-20 rule, right? Like, delegate the things that you're not strong in. And you have to be honest with yourself. Like, sometimes it's not cool being honest and being like, well, you know what? I'm just a really crappy salesperson. And unfortunately I need sales. Well, then hire a really good salesperson. Like, I don't like to, I say mitigate your weaknesses. Like, you have to mitigate those. And I think a smart business owner does that. They know what they're good at, and they know what they should delegate. And I think if you're not a seasoned designer, there are a lot of tools out there that can help you create better design, but at the same time, it might be worth looking into investing in that. Get inspired by other brands 100%. Like, listen, if you send me an email with an original design concept, I mean, first of all, I just don't think it's out there. I mean, at the rate in which people are creating content, it's very hard to be original, right?
Everything's a remix, right?
Everything's inspired by something else. So, like, don't get caught up in, I have to have the most original, unique thing. No, you don't, and you never really will. And that's okay. You really don't need to. But brands, are inspired by other brands, and I usually tend to find like one or two brands. So when I bring on a new consulting client, I usually find like one or two brands that are like just the best. Like, they're awesome, and they help inspire me to help my customer. Now, I'm not saying I steal or rip things off, but you need that inspiration. You need that context as to know what not to do, number one. But also it inspires new ideas. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on there. So obviously, Aaron mentioned that, definitely without a doubt, invest in an expert if you can. A lot of you guys are, in very early stages, probably solo entrepreneurs, and perhaps you like doing the DIY thing, hence why you'd be probably using Glorify and other tools in your disposal. But when you scale your business, that's where the collaboration aspect comes. There's no, I don't think there's a necessity to detach yourself from the process, but now you can actually get someone to help you with the process. So if you hire that expertise, and specifically for branding, a designer, then, Glorify, a tool like Glorify has collaboration features, and other tools, of course, have collaboration features. Collaboration is a core, it should be core for, I believe, any business model today. And so that's really important. So, as you scale, get the help, and be resourceful, and if you can't necessarily find the talent, the right talent for the price that you want to pay, then perhaps find a partner. You could always partner up with a designer, and that could always work as well. Aaron, thanks a lot for that. Another thing, so I kind of lost my train of thought, but you mentioned like everything's a remix, right? In terms of the big brands that are out there, and I always say this all the time in our community, that it's important not to completely reinvent the wheel, but at the same time, instead of not reinventing the wheel, I'm a big believer in improving the wheel, or getting inspired by the wheel, right? So
Yep.
that's important. Aaron, I think we've covered so much again on the agency model, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of the concepts you described is relevant for pretty much a lot of businesses, right? Especially when it comes to the PR side of things. So, I think you've covered so much just on that one experience alone.